My name is Owen Ben. Some of you probably have seen me up here before, because I just won't give up the microphone. Yeah, it's been a really beautiful weekend. Really inspiring, not just the presenters, but to spend time with a lot of you, having a lot of fun. And I haven't really made a secret about this. I've kind of tried to fudge it at times, but I am, as Kip Anderson would say, I'm still a pregame, right? I'm not quite there, but as I was just saying back there, I feel like I could be like the poster boy of this festival. I'm like the kid in the wheelchair, and then, you know, it's gonna happen. We're gonna find a cure for this pregame, and he's gonna make the switch, and everything's gonna be a miracle. So, and really, like, this is. When I was asked to MC this, I thought this is pretty ironic because anyway, I'm very, like, you know, whatever. But I'm so close now. I'm really close. I'm like looking up shit on the internet about like veganism and you know, how can I like replace my dairy milk with coconut milk in my coffee and still feel like I'm vegan. So anyway, yeah, it's been really a fun and beautiful experience here. So I hope many of you share those feelings. And on that note, I want to introduce Sifandos, our next speaker, who is, well, I'm going to let him share his story, but he's coming here from Perth, Australia, which is like practically the neighbor city of, but Ubud is pretty much like the closest city in the world to Perth, because Perth is so freaking far away from anything else. So great to have you here, neighbor. And Steph is going to be talking to us about conscious coupling and communication and lots of like tantric, groovy, great stuff. And I'm just going to give you the mic and let you go for it, brother. So thanks for being here, and you've got your own mic. So, and I think we have, I don't even know how much time we have, but there's going to be some Q&A time afterwards, probably.
Absolutely.
So rock and roll.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for committing to yourself, to your growth, to your expansion, etc. Just to clarify, the mats and the chairs. Some people like sitting on mats, some people like sitting on chairs. We only have X amount of mats, so unfortunately there's no more, but there's no specific reason for that yet. So the first thing I like to do whenever I'm very honoured and blessed to speak anywhere is to just recognise the original custodians of this land. So just take a moment, just introspectively, to recognise the custodians of the land that have been here the longest and the innate wisdom that they now carry within them. Next, I'd like you to close down your eyes, please, if you don't mind. Just begin to relax yourself. Begin to connect to the space. Begin to connect to the subject matter, conscious relationships, conscious relating, and what that may mean to you, what that may symbolise to you. Place either your left or your right hand on your heart, whichever you prefer. There's no right or wrong here. Make that connection kinesthetically with your hand to your heart. Begin to feel into that space and breathe into the centre of your chest, your heart centre, your heart. Connect to your breath, connect to the stillness, connect to the space that you're occupying. Continue to deepen your breath, and with every exhale, what no longer serves you is released from you. With every inhale possibility, potentiality, your own sovereign truth. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Just continue to be present. Thank you. So this is an interesting workshop amongst a 3-day event that is really about veganism, really about healthy choices that we make with respect to our nutrition, but also with respect to how we treat each other, how we treat every sentient being. So conscious relating or conscious relationships is not only how we relate to each other in an intimate or erotic setting, but also how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to ideas, how we relate to our purpose or purposes, how we relate to our models of reality, our belief systems. How aware and astute are we in that space? And this is what this workshop is really about. So I will focus on relationship with another because we're quite physical, tangible beings. And of course we are more than just that. But it is an important subject matter. But constantly keep referring, within your internal space, keep referring back to what is my relationship with self? What is my relationship to an idea, to a belief system? Because this, what we are going to speak to today, what we're going to move through, allows us to think about that. Think about the various areas of our lives, not just intimate relationship with a partner or a beloved. Yeah. So to give you a brief background on me, very brief, as brief as possible. I have a background in psychology and philosophy, and various other modalities with respect to mind-body evolution, mind-body enhancement, or performance, so peak performance. So I spent most of my life, the last 16, 17 years of my life in that space. And I've been very blessed to work with a variety of different people, elite special forces soldiers, Olympians, gold medalists, world champion fighters, and sort of everyone in between. Really just looking at human performance and human relationships and how we relate to each other and how we relate to what we wish to embody in life and what we wish to pursue. And for me, some of the greatest experiences I've had have been through my own personal experiences. We'll be really clear on something. No one is an expert in relationships. No one. I'm not an expert in relationships. Just as much of an expert as you. Some of us just choose to deeply reflect and be highly introspective with respect to the experiences that we have, and we somehow formulate language around that and then express it. And that's all I'm doing. I've just given really deep thought through my own personal experiences, some deeply challenging and painful, some not as much on the other end of the spectrum. And I've given structure around that. And I've gravitated towards that. It's something that deeply interests me, it inspires me, being of service to people and assisting them in enhancing and evolving their relationship to self and evolving their relationship to their lives. Yeah. So, with that said, I want to go through a very brief 5 or 6 slides here, and then we're going to go on the whiteboard. And I'm going to begin to map a journey of what limits us in relating to something that is of our highest values and what is deeply important to us, and then what can expand that posture, what can expand us in that space, what allows us to be present to having a meaningful life, a life of fulfillment. Hands up if you would like a life of fulfillment and meaning.
Oh yes.
We'll hope everyone's hand comes up. So we really begin to get into the nuances of what that means when we begin to look at self. It all begins with self. It all begins with the awareness that we can cultivate to who we are, to how we move through the world, to what we believe in, and how that governs our actions, our behaviours, our interactions with others, and importantly, the dialogue that we have with ourselves. Yeah? So the theme here is that self-awareness is key. We're going to unpack that deeply. Okay, so I have a series of questions for you. Now these questions are around self-awareness. It is simply about acquainting yourself with yourself at a deeper and broader level. There's 30 questions here. You don't need to answer them now. It's effectively a lifelong journey. The questions are a combination of questions to do with you, who you are, how you choose to be in this life, but also in reference to the types of relationships you want outside of yourself. Outside of yourself. Yeah. So I'll leave the slide up for a little bit. So you can begin to feel into these questions. Again, you don't need to answer them. You can take a photo, you can write them down, you can type them, whatever device you have there, whatever technology you use for absorbing information. It could just be the mind and the heart. It's fine as well. And these questions are thought-provoking, heart-provoking questions. And they begin to give you insight into who you are. Because if you don't know yourself, you present to the world a fractured version of self. And what you receive in return is fracturing and fragmentation. Instead of coming into the world whole, We come into the world broken. We can't expect anything more. These questions are not the be-all and end-all. And please let me tell you, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands more questions you can ask yourself. But this is a starting point. Can I change slide? Yeah? We'll come back to it if we need to, I promise. Next set of 10 out of 30. Don't be overwhelmed with these questions, please. Either, if in case you are. Who's feeling overwhelmed with 30 questions to ask yourself? Cool, a few of you. That's okay. Good. Be with that overwhelm. Feel it. And ask yourself, why am I overwhelmed? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? Where are you feeling it in your body? Where are you feeling overwhelmed? And why would these questions overwhelm you? What is confronting about the nature of these questions or the volume of the questions? Because remember, there's no time limitation on this. You have your whole life, and depending on your belief systems, multiple lifetimes to go through these questions and more. So there's no rush. There's no expectation. There's no striving for perfection. In this context, being imperfectly perfect is where you need to be. May I change slides? Last set of 10. No more. 30. Imagine a few years ago people would be scribbling. Now it's just done. That's it. We have a file. We have a reference point. It's a little bit white here. Can't see it. If I could share something of great depth with another, secrecy, meaningful, something that's a secret to you, in other words, no one else knows about, something that is meaningful, valuable, or important, what would it be? Then 28, sorry, to mention again. Where I'm most empowered in life, just because there's a bit of white background there. So these questions, maybe refer to them whilst we're going through, especially the whiteboard session that we do. Whilst we're moving through that, maybe allow those questions, one of them, two of them, to just pop up into your immediate sphere of awareness, your consciousness, whilst you're moving through that. May I change slides? Yes? Intimacy. Such an important aspect of connecting, bonding. What is intimacy? I'm asking you. So literally, put your hand up and answer in 1 to 5 words or a short sentence.
Into me, I see.
Oh, that's very obvious. Well done. Anyone else? Yes?
Seeing the other person and then seeing you as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? Being absolutely open to be yourself with another being. Beautiful. Thank you.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Serious.
My man. What else? Yes?
Unfiltered connection with yourself and others.
Beautiful. Unfiltered connection with yourself and others. Anyone else? Don't be shy. You're all vegans, yeah? Don't be shy. Come on. No, not all vegans?
Regan.
Pregan. Yeah. Yes? Open to revealing self. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes? To be close to someone mentally and physically, emotionally, spiritually? Yeah. Wonderful. Yes? Emotionally connected? You have a Fremantle Dockers singlet on. I live in Fremantle. Oh, that's unfortunate. We're north of the river. Probably only the Australians from Perth will get that yeah, I'm joking. We'll get that euphemism, but yeah, anyway. Anyone else? Intimacy.
I think it's a mix of all of this, but without the fear of being judged.
Well, that's huge. Without the fear of being judged. Beautiful. So that intimately connects to vulnerability. We're going to unpack that. And we're going to actually unpack, this is exciting, really simple. We are going to unpack how to be vulnerable in front of the right people, in front of people that are aligned with you, so that you're not heavily judged and critiqued, so that your brain then doesn't associate a deeply negative experience with being vulnerable and therefore retracts from being vulnerable and therefore retracts from being whole and therefore live a shit life. In essence, yeah? Any more definitions of intimacy? Yes?
To be open and come back to each other.
To be open and comfort to each other. Beautiful. Anyone else? Couple more. Just a couple more.
Love and accept yourself just the way you are, and acknowledge that you are the center of your life and that everything depends on you. Like,
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
A deep connection of self through others.
Nice. Nice. Like a sacred union. Is that how you would define sacred union potentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, in some aspect. One more. Who's like the last? Isn't it funny? There's one more and no one's going to laugh. Wait for the second last. What about second last? Second last, probably, yes. Trust. Cool. Mutual trust. One more, last. Acceptance, thank you. Okay. Awesome. When we think intimacy, this is a particular problem with men, and it's probably a little bit too deep, not too deep, it's just I'm on time and I have a tendency to chat too much. So it's a problem with men in terms of associating intimacy with sex. It's like it's exclusive. Sexual intimacy, and that's the only type of intimacy there is. And of course we all know that there is, and I'm generalising to an extent, yeah, and it's a systemic product of our society that many men in the Western world have that attachment or that association of intimacy and sex. But there are so many definitions, more definitions of intimacy. And just want to go through this. Just have a read of it. So in fact, I'll read it for you as well. So emotional intimacy. You are able to share a wide range of both positive and negative feelings without fear of judgment or rejection. So intimacy is connecting and bonding. Intimacy is having the integrity and ability and the faith that whatever you express and how, this is really important. This is the deeply important aspect of intimacy is how you communicate, how you connect, how you share ideas, interchange, exchange wisdom, presence, etc. That's what is deeply important. Physical intimacy, which we spoke about, so sexual intimacy, the delight in being sensual, playful, and sensitive, and sexual intimacy that is joyful and fulfilling for both partners. Intellectual intimacy, sharing ideas or talking about issues or even hotly debating opinions and still respect each other's beliefs and views. We share intimacy not by arguing or disagreeing. We share intimacy in how we disagree. How do we respect and revere each other in that process? That is what is deeply important. That is how we cultivate trust and safety in intimacy. Spiritual intimacy, discussing how spirituality works in our lives in such a way that we respect each other's particular spiritual needs and beliefs. Again, there's a reverence, there's a revering there, there's a respect, and there's a trust that takes place, and we'll go into that in a moment as well. Conflict intimacy. This is quite powerful, as is crisis intimacy as well. The bonding and the connection that can take place if we're astutely aware of self and the other in the process of being challenged, of being in dissonance and disconnection. The ability to work through our differences in a fair way and reach solutions that are broadly and mutually satisfactory, recognising that perfect solutions are not part of human life. So this entails us holding certain belief systems that govern our actions, behaviours and interactions with others. It's deeply important to understand that as well. When we're talking about those 30 questions, what are our belief systems around how we relate and how important are our ideas for our life and the lives of others that are in our sphere of existence. Work intimacy. You're able to agree on ways to share the common loads of tasks and maintaining your home, incomes, pursuing other mutually agreed goals. That's not just limited to the family dynamic, it's also limited to a workplace, to society in general, yeah? Parenting intimacy, and this is beautiful. So hands up who's parents, who is a parent. Okay, cool, okay. So whether you're with your partner and you share that or not, this is really important because if you have children, you have developed shared ways of being supportive of each other, while enabling the children to grow and become separate individuals as well. So obviously this isn't a class on parenting, it's not about that, but you can deeply bond and connect with people through this medium. And connect with yourself ultimately because you cultivate these life skills that allow you deeper insight into who you are and who you have the capacity to be. Crisis intimacy, you're able to stand together in times of crisis, both external and internal to your relationship and offer support and understanding. That's tremendous, and we'll come back to that. Aesthetic intimacy, being delighted in beauty, music, art, nature, and a whole range of aesthetic experiences, and each of us is prepared to support the other's enjoyment of different aesthetic pleasures. play intimacy, which we're going to speak to as well, having fun together through recreation, relaxation, and humour. Apologies for the while. So there's some different, not so much definitions, different aspects to intimacy. Okay. So, who's got any questions just while I pop this up? Just now. No questions.
Are you single?
I am for you, yeah. Yes, I am, yes. Yes, and I'm heterosexual. Just in case you're wondering.
I'm vegan curious, so
Oh, you're vegan curious, okay.
see how that works out.
It's not funny, is it? Fun and play. Can't live without it. Neurologically, psychologically, relationally, behaviourally, opens us up, allows us to be open to life. And life becomes more memorable when we're having fun and playing. We tend to forget the bad shit that happens in life. It's an inbuilt coping strategy that the brain and the psyche are very good at. So, limitations and evolution. So, limitations of consciously relating, evolutions of consciously relating. We'll go through these. These are just some. These are not all. We're going to move through these. We're going to make some connections here. Is that okay? Is it okay if we make some connections? Hands up if you're okay with that. Because when we make connections, we gain deeper perspective in life. Yeah? So let's go through the limitations first. Always find that interesting. Superficiality. Who's ever had an extraordinary relationship to self, to an idea, to something that you value most, to another person, when you've just rested in the realms of superficiality? Anyone? You've had an extraordinary relationship, resting in superficiality?
It was about 2 hours long, but it was amazing.
Good point. Nice. 2 hours. Good on you. You piqued my interest.
What can I say?
Maybe you're the tantric master. You want to come up here and not that I'm the tantric master. I'm not. Let's get that really clear. This has its place. Everything in life has its place. Okay, everything in life. Every experience we go through has its place if we pay enough attention to it. If we move through life with a very specific intention, a deliberate intention, an aware intention, and then we pay attention to ourselves and to our environment, everything has its place. But this will only get us so far. This will only take us so far. With respect to cultivating deep intimacy, deep bonding, connection, and meaning in our relationships. Yes?
Kind of like superficiality is a skill too.
It is.
In a workplace, it's like you go too into it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Got to know self. When you know yourself, you know how to respond in particular situations. You know when you need to go deep, and you know when you don't need to go deep. You know when you need to just rest in this space here, or when you need to or have a capacity to pursue greater depth in that relationship because it calls for it. That's a fantastic point. Like I said, everything has its place. Everything in life has its place. It's how we interact with that everything that defines the quality of the lives that we live. And the experiential wellness that we embody. Yeah? We'll only get so far if we wish to cultivate deep meaning in a relationship, if we wish to cultivate substance in a relationship, we have to move beyond this. Because what happens is, this superficiality is intimately linked to history and effort. And I'm going to come to these in a moment. Okay? Because if we don't go down this path of knowing self and knowing other, we play in the realm of the superficial. And as human beings, we are multi-layered, multi-dimensional. We are so much more than just this. This is only an aspect of life. And we often become deeply scared to go deep because we don't know what we are going to uncover. And as human beings, we're generally afraid of the unknown. We steer away from the mystery. I'm here to tell you that the mystery is where the magic happens. The mystery is where substance resides. And in substance, we refine our being. And we get to know ourselves with greater depth. We want to move beyond asking basic questions of self and of others. We want to be challenged because it is through challenge that we grow. It is through challenge that we become who we are meant to be. And who we are meant to be isn't some woo-woo, airy-fairy concept. We are defined by the actions we take every day. The more astute we are, welcome, come. You don't want to come in? No? Oh, okay, no problem. Lost my train of thought. It's a
Here we
good
are.
thing, though. That was super cute.
You have to welcome challenge because it's through challenge that we grow.
Fantastic, thank you. And we don't want to be confronted with fears because fears are scary. It's as simple as that. And we all have our fears. We all have our predisposed fears that we've cultivated and we've brought into our lives and we've interpreted from generally a young age, not always, but generally a young age. And those fears unconsciously drive us. But if we go deep, I promise you, we will be challenged. And in that challenge, we will grow. And I've got my train of thought back now. We're defined by our actions, the actions that we take every day. That is what leads us to purpose. Actually, I'll give you something. This is really cool. Who wants to be happy? Hands up who enjoys being happy. Right, wonderful. Who knows how to be happy? Hands up if you know how to be happy, if you truly know how to be happy. Okay, not everyone. It's cool. And that's okay. Sometimes I don't know how to be happy either, especially if I'm stuck in stuff that's really dense. It takes time to break that up. But here's a really, really simple formula for happiness. And it's not really mathematical. It's just a way of being, of embodiment. So you gain clarity on life. That means knowing self. Every aspect of life as humanly possible. Because we're in constant flux, yeah? So you're never going to know you 100%. You only know you 100% if possible at that time, in that time and space. Then it continually shifts. So you know self, you know your purpose or your purposes, you know why you're here, you know what your highest values are, what the experiences are that you cherish the most in life. What is most important to you, your likes, your dislikes, etc. Hold that vision in your mind and heart with everything that you are. Remain authentic to it. Be in integrity to that vision. Because it's you. That's your authentic you. That's you in wholeness. Then, you align your everyday actions with that purpose. You align your everyday actions with that authentic self that you are. And you do that with intention and an astute attention to self. So you're constantly in refinement. Yes, it requires this. So does anything worth pursuing or embodying. We need to move away as a society from being this. That's an L. And lazy is we haven't identified as our highest values. So because we haven't identified as our highest values, it doesn't become important to us, so we don't pursue it, embody it, immerse in it. And then when we align our actions with our purpose, guess what happens? We naturally cultivate meaning and fulfillment in life. And meaning and fulfillment lay the foundation for happiness. That's it. That's all it is. Nothing else, really. In its simplest form. How does being selfish limit our ability to consciously connect to others and to self? Selfishness is an interesting term. We need to be selfish. Some people don't like that. Some people are okay with that. Some people get that. Some people don't like that. I remember when I was younger, I used to despise that word selfish. I thought it was wrong. You began to realise that if our intention and our attention to self is in alignment, and it's authentic and it's sincere, and it takes into account others, And that's a concept that I call selfish selflessness. And it may sound like a paradox, but I'll explain it in a moment. Life is very different. We need to be selfish. If we weren't, we would not be here. Like, we'd be dead, literally. But we need to look after our own self-interests. But it's how we do that. Keep coming back to the how and the why. How do we do that? So, when we are hyper-selfish, or we are immersed in extreme states of self-absorption, we limit our capacity to connect because all we care about is how we feel. So we enter a relationship, and the first stage or a first developmental stage of maturity when entering a relationship would be, what can I gain from this relationship? What can I get from this? That's the attitude. You may not be consciously saying that, but that's the posture. It's all about me. And there's no reciprocity there. There's no flow of give and take. Does that resonate with people? Has anyone been in a relationship like that where your partner or even your friend, family member, all they've done is just take? Hands up if you've been in a relationship like that. Some people call it narcissism. That's a more complex term. It's an aspect of narcissism. You like narcissism? No, you don't like narcissism. Selfish selflessness is our ability to be aware of our own path, to have a yearning to evolve and to grow our own journey, to expand our minds, to connect our hearts with our reality, with our truth, with our authentic being, with all that we have a capacity to be, so to explore and experiment. We're natural explorers in life. We are natural explorers. But to simultaneously hold in our mind, in our consciousness, in our sphere of awareness, how do my actions impact others? How do my actions affect others? Especially those that I deeply care about, that I have an emotional bonding and connection with. We need to understand as well, and we're going to come to this here, the importance of emotions and how they actually lead us to consciously relating with greater integrity and connection, deepening the meaning of cultivating relationships. So selfish selflessness is where we wish to be, to tackle this, to counteract self-absorption. But it's a process. The deeper we know ourselves, the deeper we actually realise it's very natural for us to be giving creatures. Society has conditioned us to not be giving. And just to relate it to the theme of this summit, this conference, this 3-day event around veganism, our society is so conditioned to neglect the other, to take. And it's a systemic byproduct of our socio-economic structures that have been compounded over many, many years. Millennia, in fact. Multiple millennia. So we lose consideration for others, for other sentient beings. But we can change that. We can transmute and transform that. We simply need to engage in processes of self-awareness. Again, giving, it's very natural for us. If you go back to nomadic lifestyles, to hunter-gatherers, to small collectivist groups, hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, it was essential for our own survival to give, to be present in the group, because if we were isolated from that group, our environment was so harsh that we would die. It's neurologically embedded within us, within the cerebellum, within the brainstem, to give. It's just being conditioned out of us. Does that resonate with everyone? Make sense to everyone? Cool. Fears. When we don't know what fears are, who thinks fears are bad? Hands up if you just think fears are bad. There's no judgment here. Cool. Okay. For me, personally, fears are fucking great. They have transformed my life. Albeit a painful experience at times, they have given me tremendous insight into who I am, just like joy and happiness has as well. See, we become polarised in life when we choose to focus on what makes us feel good, whatever that even means. So when we're denying authentic aspects of self. Fear, or fears, are simply markers on our map of life. They direct us. We don't need to ignore them, we need to be with them. And then the more we embrace them, the more we become present to them, it diffuses the intensity of how that fear then paralyzes or controls us. But here's the thing that we don't get conscious. When we ignore our fears, when we suppress, when we reject, we put into the knapsack of shadow, it just rests and resides in the realm of the unconscious. And the unconscious self is responsible for driving 80+% of our thoughts, behaviours, feelings, etc. So it's still there, we're just not aware of it. So become accustomed to your fears, because what's going to happen is you'll move through life, you'll meet people in life, and you'll have these fears. And it could be a fear of connection or even self-image, as an example of multiple fears. You have a fear of connecting. Perhaps you've experienced something traumatic as a child, or as a teenager, or even as a young adult. And it's really refrained you now from engaging. But you're the one that is suffering the most. And the world does not get the grandest version of you because you're being held back by fears. That becomes sad because I observe people, I work with people in a one-on-one capacity, in various capacities. And I see these fears that hold them back from their brilliance. That hold them back from just living a peaceful life without anxiety, without deep, deep stress and anxiety. Address your fears, be with your fears, be open with your fears, and you'll begin to emerge into a newer version of self. And then what happens is you'll begin to attract into your life experiences, people, ideas that are in alignment with a more conscious, aware version of self. An expanded version of self, as opposed to a constricted, restricted version of self. Because fear is about constriction and restriction and closedness, being closed. Closed off to the world, yes.
Can you just give an example of how to embrace fear?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. So, the first step is embracing the mystery, embracing the unknown. Then you may say, well, how do I embrace the unknown? Begin to take action. Again, baby steps. When we're talking about habit formation, when we're talking about how the psychology and the emotionality, the limbic system interacts with cultivating new habits, if you go from 0 to 100, it's too overwhelming for the brain, it's too overwhelming for the body, for the being. And what will happen is you may immerse for a week, a day, 2 days, a couple of months, and then you just retract right back. And then you cultivate an idea or you make an association with that experience being harmful for you because it was too intense. So baby steps. So begin by immersing yourself, wrong choice of words, not immersing. Begin by exposing yourself to experiences that are unknown to you, that are a little bit different, that you're not familiar with. And it could be something really simple like literally taking a different route to your friend's house. So you may take the same path all the time. Take another path. See something different, experience something different. As simple as that. That may sound a little bit uncanny, but that's where you need to begin. Yeah? And then what happens is the more you expose yourself to mystery, the more comfortable you become with the unknown. So comfort equals familiarity equals safety. The ego only wants to be comfortable all the time. So the more you can demonstrate to the ego, to self, that you can find safety in discomfort by slow, methodical exposure. It's called titration, I believe, in neuroscience. Titration. Yeah, pretty sure it is. Then you will develop a greater tolerance and resilience to that. And then you can begin to tackle some fears. Then you can begin to observe connections and relationships in your life that aren't necessarily working. So you can begin to observe, here's something really, really cool. And all it is just an observation. You have to actually take action besides being introspective with yourself. Is begin to observe how do you argue in intimate relationship. Begin to observe where there is tension in intimate relationship. Under what pressure is there tension? So where's your breaking point? When you're challenged, how do you react or respond to life? And begin to make notes of this. Begin to form connections. And what that will do is it will lead you down a rabbit hole towards fear. It doesn't happen without this. That's the short. You need that. And I'll go into that. Does that assist a little bit? Yeah. I'm going to come to this down here. Come to this down here. So let's speak about evolutions in posturing around conscious relating. Any questions thus far? We're going to have a little bit of time for Q&A after, I'm sure, after an embodiment practice that we're going to all partake in, hopefully. It's not forced, but hopefully you'll choose to partake. But if you have questions, just raise your hand and I'll get to you. Pretty chill, yeah. Conscious communication. So I've got a model on conscious communication. There's 12 principles in this model that assist us in being more conscious in the way we communicate. What this does, what communication does, what open, honest, earnest, truthful, authentic, value-laden communication does, is it allows us to relate with greater efficacy and clarity. There's less ambiguity, there's less muddy water, there's less confusion. So we fast track the evolution, the growth of the relationship, and we also fast track our learning. Not that we need to fast track it, but that's not necessary, but we save ourselves a great deal of pain. Hey, if you love pain and suffering, if you're addicted to that, neurochemically, psychologically, emotionally, go for it. You're welcome. Personally, I've learned the hard way enough in my life. I don't think and feel I need to continue to purposely do that. If it comes to me, I'll embrace it. When this happens, I embrace that because it's important. Don't necessarily chase it, sometimes, depends. But communicating deeply your fears with an intimate partner, with someone that you trust, respect and revere. Communicating, where are we? This history, which I'm going to come to in a moment, is so important. But we can become unraveled with communication when we communicate with the wrong people. There's 3 types of people in the world with respect to communicating your truth, your message, the expression of your vulnerable, authentic self. And in order to choose consciously and wisely and astutely which of the 3 you spend most of your time with, you need to know yourself as best as possible. The first type of person is a person that does not get it, that is rigid in their ways, that is locked in, that have a belief system or a set of ideologies, principles by which they live their life, and they're not going to change it. Hands up who has those people in their lives. You just cannot communicate with them no matter how hard you try. And nor should you need to. It's not your job to change anybody. The second type of person is the person in your life that doesn't really get you. They don't understand the way you live, what you value, but they're open. They say to you, hey, tell me more about this. I'm curious, I'm interested. I don't really understand it. At the moment, I don't even really like it, but I'm curious to know more. Tell me more. They're really open-hearted and open-minded to who you are. And the third type of person is the person that just gets you. Like, you don't even need to speak. You just show up and they get it. Who has those people in their lives? Beautiful. What a blessing. Count your blessings. They're beautiful. But you know what? You don't want to spend too much time there. You do, experientially, but not when you're communicating your truth per se. You want to be here. You want to be here. I want to tell you why. I'm going to be number 2. Because when you place yourself in a set of circumstances that allow you to explain yourself, not justify, because remember, these people are open. You don't need to justify yourself. You're explaining yourself. You automatically go deeper into self. You get to know a little bit more about you because you're exploring you through the other. Someone said that earlier, exploration of self through the other. Who was that? Yes, perfect. Do we get that? How important that is? So spend time here. It's good, it's fun. Super fun. Challenges you. We grow through challenge, right? And growth, what's the importance of growth? For me, growth is everything. Right? We're here to grow and expand ourselves. That's the ultimate overarching purpose of life. And we do that through varied experiences and the choices that we make, and the ideologies and the beliefs that we hold, the relationships that we have, the emotions that we share, the self-exploration that takes place. That's how that happens, yeah? Conscious communication. Safety and trust is intimately linked to this. If you spend, and this is a form of self-sabotage, if you spend your time here banging your head against the wall, you're going to have real negative experiences with who you are. You'll disassociate from yourself. And you won't be able to cultivate safety and trust in relationship. When we said about methodically exposing yourself slowly, could be called pendulation or titration, I can't remember. One of the two. Pendulation or titration is slow methodical exposure. That's what will assist you in cultivating safety and trust. That's how you'll be able to be vulnerable. And you must find someone that you trust, revere, and respect. Here and here. And you still may respect and trust and revere these people in the category of number one, but you won't necessarily express yourself in a particular way. And it's not being inauthentic, it's adapting to your environment. You can still let them know who you are, but you don't have to engage in that consistent conversation. It just doesn't have to happen. Safety and trust is the foundation for any relationship with self as well, for exploration. We've been exploring since the beginning of time. We are where we are today because we explore. Both men and women. We're natural explorers. We're natural explorers of self, and we're natural explorers. You can still hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Because the mic's not. So we're natural explorers of self, and we are natural explorers of our environment. If my voice goes before the end of the talk, my humble apologies. We need to cultivate safety and trust in order to continue being the most profound version of ourselves, in order to continue to grow. Better? A bit better? Clearer? Yeah. Could we put the volume down just a little bit, please, if that's okay? Thank you. Cool. This is going to be fun. How restricted are you in your movement when you don't feel safe and you don't have trust in your environment? We become paralyzed. So the cerebellum, the brainstem, the R complex brain engages, freeze, fight, flight. That's all we are occupied about. That's all we are occupied with and we are concerned about, is our self-preservation. We cannot grow unless we cultivate safety and trust. Now, we cultivate safety and trust we cultivate safety and trust by knowing ourselves. The deeper we know ourselves, the deeper we can align with experiences that are of meaning and value to us. Really important. And the more then we can demand. Yeah, we do. We demand it, but of course in a passive and encompassing and authentic, in a considerate way, we demand this in our relationships. In other words, we do not compromise on our safety and trust, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical, because we know ourselves and we value ourselves. We value ourselves. Where are we? Here. We value ourselves deeply. In other words, we give to self. We love ourselves enough to give ourselves the gift of honesty and integrity and authenticity. And we value this deeply because nothing occurs without this. Our life does not gain momentum and consistency without this, without safety and trust. It is so important in our lives to cultivate safety and trust for ourselves and who we are and our relationships. Now, in fun and play, which is really cool, we can actually cultivate safety and trust. And in pendulation and titration, in other words, slow exposure, which comes here, methodical exposure, creating space to get to know yourself and others, you can have fun, you can play. And in fun and play, we become open in our being. We become open in our emotions. Our brain relaxes. We begin to develop new neuronal networks. We begin to view literally the world differently because we're having fun and we're playing. It places us in what I call an open state of being. And in an open state of being, we receive more information because we're not in fear. We're not in a constricted state of being where all we are focused on is self-preservation and nothing else. Nothing else at all. So we shut down anything that's not important to us in the present moment. But when we're fun and play, we're open. And it's in openness that we grow. And growth is a priority for life. Yeah? So to be vulnerable, and you want to be vulnerable, want to deeply be vulnerable, you have to have fun and you have to create safety. You create safety by knowing yourself and being very astute with who you choose to spend your time with. And what you choose to expose yourself to in terms of belief systems and ideologies. So evaluating that, self-awareness. Now, vulnerability is a big issue in our society. Again, particularly for men. We're taught that being vulnerable is a weakness. We're taught that, and we're told that if we are vulnerable, we are not real men. Whatever the fuck that means. I don't even know. I mean, you know, philosophers have been debating what being human is for thousands of years, and all of a sudden, if we're not vulnerable, we're not real men. I don't even understand what that means. But through vulnerability and sharing, we develop closeness. Through vulnerability and sharing, we develop intimate, deep, meaningful connections. Who in your life have you shared something deep with? Maybe a secret, maybe something of deep or grand sensitivity to you. And then in doing so, they have then opened up an aspect of themselves. And because of that, your relationship has flourished and deepened. And you've cultivated more of this. Or vice versa, who has done that with you. And because they've done that with you, you've then opened your heart and your being. And then together you've shared something of great intimacy. Who's done that before? Hands up if you've done that. Yeah, beautiful. How amazing is that? That is the power of vulnerability. And more of us need to be there. And we're scared to be there because you know what? We've been hurt. We've been vulnerable as children. Mainly, not always, but we've been vulnerable in our lives and we've associated a negative experience with that vulnerability, with that openness, with that speaking or posturing of truth. It's been shut down. Generally by a primary caregiver, who we, of course, respect and revere and trust. And then in our brains and in our bodies, in our nervous system, we make this association with vulnerability being bad. Vulnerability being unsafe. So we continue to hold ourselves back. And we live a mediocre life. We live a fractured life and we live a life that is not fulfilled because we're not happy. Because we're placing forward a facade. And no one wishes to place forward a facade. Vulnerability is crucial in cultivating strength, consciousness, awareness, intimacy, bonding, connecting in relationship. It is one of the most powerful tools for knowing self as well. One of the most powerful tools for acquainting yourself with who you are. Begin by being vulnerable with you. Being truthful about what it is that you need in life. Empathy and compassion are really interesting. The deeper our empathy and the deeper our capacity to cultivate compassion, the closer we bond. If you were to recall some of your greatest memories, some of the most profound memories you've had, both joyous and blissful, but also sad, fearful, angry, just detrimental, negative. So we'll just call it simplicity, say positive and negative. Why you remember those relationships, why you remember those experiences or those memories the most is because you've attached to that explicit memory an emotion or a series of emotions that are super powerful and they bring that memory to light very quickly. That is the power of emotion and that is the power of connecting. Because this here leads to this. Being seen, being heard, being known, and being felt. When we feel that we are being known, when we are present to those that we love and care about, when we are present to those that are in our lives, and they feel that they are being known for who they truly are, that they are able to be vulnerable, and they feel safe and trust in that dynamic, we are giving them a tremendous gift. Their whole brain neurology, their brain chemistry is completely changing. And the associations they then begin to make with how safe is it to be me, how safe is it to express myself in complete truth, changes. And it changes because we are able to relate and express that relating nature to them by being present, by holding presence to who they are and how they choose to be in the world without judgment and critique. And that's the empathy and compassion that comes into play. And that is so important for learning how to relate to each other. Now, empathy and compassion does not just extend to others, it extends to ourselves as well. So we must give to ourselves love, kindness, care, and we must value who we are. Now, when we do that, with respect to intimate relationship, what generally happens is that then we will bring into our lives, not always, but we'll largely bring into our lives experiences and people and circumstances and relationships that are in alignment with us. And if we experience a relationship that is not in alignment with us, we are very astute to say, no, that doesn't serve me because that's not respecting my needs and who I am. And that comes under healthy selfishness. Because you know yourself. You know yourself with great depth. Now, we spoke to effort. Now, effort requires consistency. Consistency is the key to everything and anything in life. If you want to be consistently proficient at any experience, if you want to be proficient at any experience, be consistent in the practice of that. Practice it regularly. Be present to it. Have an affinity with it. Value it. Immerse yourself in it. Be with it. It requires consistency. And nothing great has ever been achieved or attained or embodied without effort. Sometimes we move into a relationship with self in particular, and we think, I've done all this work on myself. I've been there. I've been doing this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It doesn't end. The journey doesn't end. Nor should it. It should excite you. That there's a layer of self to always unravel. A layer of the other to always unravel. We move into intimate relationships at times, and after the hormonal hit wears off, of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, norepinephrine, and the rest of it, it's like, now what? Well, that's where the work's done. That's where the exciting part happens. You really get to know each other at depth, and you begin to transcend this. Nothing wrong with that. It has its place. Beautiful. Not devaluing the physical. Our physicality is an extension of our spirituality and emotionality. Tremendous. Being physical is not superficial, I'll be clear on that. But life requires effort, and so do relationships. So does anything. If you have an idea, you hold true to a particular ideological belief or a philosophical belief system, you need to unpack that consistently because you will evolve with time as you're exposed to new experiences. You take those experiences on. So it becomes an exciting process to know that the work never ends. It's beautiful. So that's a perspective switch that we take. We begin to relate differently to that idea. We give it a cognitive reframe. Effort, so important. We've spoken about this, of course, but history. Take your time unpacking who you are. Go deep into yourself. How was your childhood? What memories or feelings do you associate with your childhood, with your relationship to your primary caregivers? There's great importance in all of this because it really sets a tone with respect to how we relate to the world. How did you grow up relating to new ideas, learning new information? You have a rigid mindset, a growth mindset. What are your favourite experiences to embrace, embody, be a part of? Know yourself, but importantly, in context to intimate relationships with others, know others. How many of you, how many of us have gone into a relationship super excited about the relationship for whatever reason, because you're in that early first stage of love, we'll call it love, of relating, and then all of a sudden you find out more and more about this person that really isn't in alignment with you. Hands up who's had that experience before. And it could be with friends as well, yeah? Yeah, most of us, I have as well. Because we don't take the time to move beyond this, and we don't make the time to go deep into this. There's nothing wrong with asking deep questions of self and others. It helps them grow, it helps us grow. Tremendously. We've spoken about the importance of this, we've spoken about the importance of this, creating space to reflect on the experiences that you're having. If you have an intense experience, if you have an intense unraveling of self, a revealing of self, give yourself space to be introspective, to reflect, to feel, to be with that, to embody the wisdom that comes with this new information that has come to you. Be patient with yourself in that space, and with others as well. And finally, before we move into a practice and a Q&A, openness in being in every way possible. I said I'd come to this and address it here in the positive, so to speak. This is in reference to ourselves and to others. So many of us move through life with a distorted view of our own sexuality. And there are various reasons for this. Then we project that distorted view onto our intimate relationships with others. This is a huge problem in society. Huge problem. But there's great news. By being self-aware, so aware of self, and paying attention to one's own sexuality, your own sexual desires, what your healthy boundaries are, how you relate to sexual intimacy, because it's a deep form of connecting to self and to others. You don't bypass, but you move through these distortions, or you move through these hang-ups. And some of us have had traumatic experiences with respect to our physicality as young people. So it's about exploring that in a safe manner, yeah? Exploring that in a safe manner. And there's various ways to do that, of course. But when we begin to relate to ourselves, the moral of this story is when we begin to relate to ourselves sexually in greater health and connection, our whole relationships begin to change deeply. For the better. We begin to evolve ourselves. Especially, again, relationally and emotionally as well. We begin to observe the way we respond or react to certain situations that trigger us. Our lives completely change. There's a little bit of information with respect to relating consciously. So now to extend upon that, and I'm sure some of you, at least some of you, have done this particular exercise before, is we're going to move into a practice of transfiguration. Hands up who knows what transfiguration is. Okay. Eye gazing. Who knows what eye gazing is? Okay. Transfiguration is the ancient practice, yeah? So it's a really, really old practice. So I want to be completely honest with you. You don't need to partake in this if you don't want to. And if you don't, that is absolutely cool. There's no judgment there at all. It's no problem. And if you don't choose to partake in it, just ask yourself very gently, without judgment and harsh critique, why you're not partaking in the exercise. Okay? So we're all beautiful, mature adults, and we're all going to either turn our chairs around and face each other, or somehow here, you're just going to find your own partners. Okay? We're going to mobilise that. We're going to do that in like the next 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds. Go. You just turn to where you are. Turn to, and if you're missing someone, I'm sure one of the lovely staff or our MC. Okay, quiet it down, please. Silence, silence, silence. My uncle taught me that. Really good. I learned when I was a kid. It's ingrained in me now. I can do it really loud too. I won't do it too loud. Everyone has a partner that's participating. Beautiful. Face each other, please. Place your right hand palm facing up, left hand palm facing down, and make contact with each other's hands. Ask permission if you need to first, if they're a stranger or they're not comfortable, you're not comfortable. But we're all the vegans here, right? So it's all, oh, not a vegans. Sorry. Okay, and close your eyes down and just face each other. Just close your eyes down and face each other. And just connect to your breath. Just connect to who you are, connect to the space in the room, connect to what we've spoken to the last hour or so. Connect to some of the information that's been imparted, how it's made you feel. Connect to the rhythm of your heart, connect to your heart beating. Connect to your breath. Keep coming back to your breath. Begin to soften the body. So with every exhale that takes place, allow resistance or tension to leave your body. Soften the body into the chair that you're sitting in or the ground that you're sitting on. And just be present to where you are. Now in a moment I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, not just yet. And I want you to stare into or gaze into the left eye of the person across from you. And allow whatever feelings come up or arise, simply to arise. You may laugh, you may cry, you may smile, you may hold a neutral face. And whatever you do, it does not matter. Just be observant to that. And continue to keep coming back to your breath whenever and wherever you can. That will be your greatest power. And hold that gaze. Pay reverence and respect to the being that is in front of you and also to yourself. Begin to transfigure what you see in front of you into the magic that is that person. Stay with your eyes closed. Continue to connect to your breath. Can you see across from you when you open your eyes in a moment the cosmic nature of that person across from you? The person that is you, that you are them. There's a connectedness that transpires. Tuck your chin in slightly. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And in silence, no speaking, please. Just gaze to that left eye of the person across from you. Now open your eyes when you're ready. Begin to pay attention to the thoughts or the feelings that are arising as you're engaged in this quite intimate practice of eye gazing or soul gazing or transfiguration. Being present to the person that is across from you, to the being that is across from you, doing your very best to maintain that gaze, to be present to that, and to be present to the feelings that are arising within you and thoughts, and your responses or reactions. There is no wrong or right here, it's simply observed. This is an opportunity to bond, to connect, to gain insight, wisdom into who you are, into what you are, into where you are in your life right now, and what is most important to you. Pay attention to your hands making contact, to your breath, and to your heart beating. Is your heart accelerating? Is it relaxed? Is it soft? Are you comfortable? Are you deeply uncomfortable? Pay attention to the feelings that are arising. Continue to come back to your breath. What are you seeing with your internal eye and what are you seeing with your external eye? To self and to the other. How present are you? How does silence allow you to feel? Begin in your mind's eye and your heart to focus on the wonder that is before you, the beauty that is before you, the reflection that is before you. What is in front of you is a reflection of you. Some of you have noticed the tension that has eased, perhaps an expansion is taking place. Continue to connect to your breath. Please close down your eyes when you're ready. Just remain in this space for a moment. Remain making contact with your hands. Just feel for a moment what transpired when you closed your eyes and when you had your eyes open. Was there a sense of relief? Was there disappointment that it ended? Something else arise within you in terms of insight with respect to who you are. And in a moment I'll ask you to open your eyes, and if you wish, you may thank the person in any way you want. A hug is always beautiful. The release of oxytocin and acknowledgement, and also revering and honouring allowing that person to be known as they do for you is appropriate. But if it doesn't feel right for you, that's okay as well. You may open your eyes when you're ready, thank each other in the most appropriate way for you both, and just come back to where you were. Come back to where you were sitting. How's everybody feeling? Relaxed? Yeah. Maybe throw a word out in respect to how you're feeling. One word. Just don't put your hand up, just shout it out.
Joy.
What else? Connected. What else?
Sorry, what was the question?
How you feeling? One word. How you feeling?
Energized.
Safe.
Safe.
Grounded.
So, grounded. Good. Not sure. It's okay. It's good. That's good too, actually. It's all good. It's insight into self. Yeah. What else? One word. Yeah. Happy.
Witness.
Witness. Who said that? Thank you. Connected. Awkward. Good. Good.
Intense.
Sorry, intense. Beauty.
Some cheers.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. It's deep connection. Grateful. I'm grateful to witness that. It's beautiful. It really is. Sense some really deep bonding and connecting there. So that's the that's that session for now. We're going to have a Q&A if you have any questions at all. And we have a few minutes, I believe, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. 10. I like to push it down, so we'll say 12. I like to sold. Should have said 30.
So, if you've been up here before, again, if you have a question, please, I'll give you the microphone and just wait because the video directors want to get all this question from the road.
So I always have a desire. You know, okay. So I always have a desire to connect deeply with people that I just meet because it's kind of like the goal and what I find meaningful. However, I always find it difficult and hard or unknowing how to move past that superficiality phase and get into a deeper conversation. Do you have any like tools or questions or any like techniques specific to be how to transform a superficial relationship into a deeper one with people you're just kind of getting to know?
Is it at a platonic level, like a platonic friendship, or
Mostly platonic.
most of the time? Yeah, cool. So those questions that we looked at the beginning, is begin to ask yourself those questions. Begin to go deep into yourself with that and cultivate a familiarity with it. And then you can literally ask those questions to other people. And you have to gauge this. Like, there needs to be an element of you having some form of astuteness with respect to saying, I'm telling you the most traumatic experience you've ever had. Because people might go, well, that's too much. So you've got to gauge that. But you can begin to say, hey, do you want to share one of your greatest accolades or one of your most memorable experiences? And what happens is you begin to tap into their emotionality. Because again, their memorable experiences that are in the positive, there's going to be a deep emotion that's significant in that experience. You begin to unpack that and you begin to then bond and share emotionally. And you begin to cultivate empathy and compassion. People feel that and they feel known, seen, heard, felt. So that's how you're going to deepen your relationships, is by being present to wanting to know more about them. So simply identify what you want to know about. What is it that you identify what superficiality is for you. There's no objective, hard and fast rule. So if you think you're being superficial, what does that mean for you then to go deep? Engage. Ask the question. It's going to require an element of courage as well. Which is really the question that you're asking, is how do you break through and be courageous? Your unconscious self is asking. How do I break through the fear of being judged if I'm asking a question that's too deep and then it dissipates the potential friendship because they're scared? Reality is, if they are not in that space to receive your depth, probably not for you in your life anyway. And that becomes an issue of self-image and self-worth. That's a whole can of worms.
I always like to ask people, what do you do for fun? Because I lived in New York City for 14 years and I got so sick of asking people at parties, what do you do? And then like hedge fund, I don't understand what that means. Finance, I don't understand. Teacher, I don't understand. But like getting to that, what do you do for fun? First of all, it can like throw people off a little bit because they're not used to hearing that. And I find it's a really kind of an interesting way to get a little bit deeper. So, question from the partner here. So this follow-up could be kind of spicy. Let's see.
Well, Ben's trying to provoke me into making this more fun. His question did spark a question in my own head. And so for me, I'm kind of the opposite. I find it much more easy to be intimate with people that I just meet. And as soon as I form a relationship with them, that's when I pull back. And so I don't share myself with people that I have developed a bond with. So I guess my question would be, I know that there's a lot of people that feel that. What would be your advice for that kind of fear? I know that you're talking about fear, so it's probably a little bit to do with that.
I love the magnitude of the questions. Anyone ask what the weather is? It's 21 degrees, I know what that is. Epic questions, but profound, beautiful. The reality is it takes time to obviously extrapolate that and go into greater detail. But effectively, do something for me, please. Ask the question again. Just ask the question in literally a few words. Think about it for a moment.
How would you advise someone to be more intimate with people that they don't know?
Cool. Thank you. So appreciate that. So potentially there's a fear holding you back. Without getting to assumptions, okay? We either reside in love where we're in an open state of being, or in fear where we're closed. So you're reaching a ceiling, so to speak, and then you cannot go beyond that ceiling. You're struggling to go beyond that ceiling. So what's your name, sorry? Cece. So whilst I'm speaking to Cece, it's applicable to me, it's applicable to all of us. We all have a ceiling to some degree. So there's a fear of being known or being seen or being vulnerable for who you are. So don't worry or focus too much on others. Bring it back to yourself as a starting point and begin to identify where in your life that has occurred for you, or over a series of different events where it's occurred for you that you've experienced being vulnerable or open or going deep, what you classify as deep, and then something has occurred in that dynamic where it's halted your depth and it's given you or provided you with a negative interpretation of that event. Begin to unpack where that's occurred as a starting point. Don't even worry about going any deeper than that for now. Is that okay? But know that when you do that, it's going to open up. It will open up stuff. Yeah. And when it opens up stuff, you want to be in a safe and secure place within yourself to be able to address that. And what that means is you need to have support around you. Also, if you go down the rabbit hole, there's nothing wrong with that. It's super healthy, but just be supported in your ways of doing that. Yeah? Does that resonate?
Yeah.
As a starting point, address the fears that you have. Why is it that you feel you can't break them? Don't worry about the others. Bring it back to yourself.
Hi.
Sorry, two seconds. Sorry, my friend. My apologies. To expand on that, is ask yourself, what are the feelings associated with going at depth, or moving at depth with someone? And what are the feelings associated with holding back? And what is the possibility of if you did go deep and it was reciprocated, so you felt known, seen and heard, and you were respected and revered in that space, what is the feeling of that right there? Begin to focus on that feeling. Okay? Sorry, please.
Hello, yes. The question is the dreaded expectations. How do we balance that, or do we have expectations, or around all these feelings and sensations?
That's a great question. We do have expectations, and they're very difficult to shift. I prefer to have preferences over expectations. Expectations are quite rigid in nature, and they lock us down into a particular way of being. And what happens is that limits us. So in the realm of infinite potentiality, where anything can occur, we're trying to control everything in our environment because it's safe to do so. The reality is we cannot. I cannot control what you're about to do now, what you're thinking, what any of you are feeling. I can't do that. So it's literally a pathology to control, and that's ultimately linked to expectations. Now, if you have preferences, what's happening is you're moving into a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed or rigid mindset. So in a growth mindset, when we met with a challenge, or we have an idea of what we would like life to be like, and if it doesn't occur according to our plan or our idea of life, we look at that and we immediately say, okay, hasn't gone quite how I would have liked it to have gone, but what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Are there any opportunities in this space? What are the lessons? What are the teachings? What is the value? So therefore, we actually remove expectation because we know that there is value in any and every outcome. Now, that's easy to intellectually explain. Hard, more difficult to embody, but we need to start somewhere. So our primary form of communication is language, is verbalization. That's what we do as people. Yeah? And we're exceptional at it as well. But we're having a conversation now about what's the starting point. So begin to view life and maybe look at some previous examples that you had an expectation about, this is how I want it to be, and it didn't happen. Well, what was the value in that? Because hindsight's a wonderful thing. Foresight's more challenging. Hindsight's wonderful, so leverage hindsight and say, wow, okay, that didn't occur, I didn't get that job I wanted, but it led me to here. Or that relationship broke down, but it's given me this. Wow. So that's reinforcing that expectations aren't always the best.
Having no expectations makes you believe in yourself.
Yeah. And having preferences instead. Because you still have a preference because you're directing your life. If you have a preference, you have clarity on where you're going. But you're also adaptable, you become resilient. So resilience is our ability to recover after a deep challenge, adversity, pain point, etc. Toughness is our ability to move through that. Our ability to move through that challenge, that dissonance, that disconnection, that pain. Yeah? You cultivate that as you reflect from a different vantage point.
I think we're going to have to end it here because we have another speaker at 11:30. We got to turn the room around. So I'm sure Steph will be happy to go downstairs and continue conversations.
Yes, absolutely.
So Steph, thank you so much. Steph Sifandos, my brother. I'm going to do some ideas today. You guys know this was part of